What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you've done your grind today. If not, I'll grind you. So we're going to check out a video from this channel called I'm Bree. Bree Does Things. Essentially, this will be a Evildea Does Things video. You guys love it when Evildea does things because it generally pisses you off and everyone else off, but you know, that's Evildea. He does things. So we're going to be reviewing this video right here. It's called How I'm Finally Learning a Second Language Anti-Study Method, because fuck you, study. Don't tell me what to do. You're not my dad. Now, why am I reviewing such a mundane sounding title of a video? Because this doesn't sound very clickbait. Well, it's because it's been brought to my attention. If I scroll down about 20 centimeters, I will find another video titled How to Learn Any Language Without Studying, with a bunch of flags in it. What's going on here? Learn any language without studying. How I'm finally learning a second language. Like, you guys see the problem, right? Like, this is just not a me issue. You've made videos about how to... Holy shit, you've made two! Learn any language easily with these ChatGPT prompts. So for the last 2 years, you've dropped a video each year about how to learn any language. And then finally, 3 weeks ago, you're now starting to learn your second language. This be a problem. Evildea see a problem here. Evildea want to talk about this problem. So let's watch this video. And I'm going to watch the first 30 seconds of it with you guys. I've already watched, I think, 30 seconds. And I can already see the issue. This is an issue that I've had to discuss so many times in my comment section. But let me just... You know what? Her video perfectly lays this out for me to present what the problem is, okay? So let's just watch her video. Now, before we get into it, I have sped her video up by 2 times because it just helps, okay, overall. And the second thing is, if you're watching this video, don't feel like I'm ripping on you, because literally everyone who's a noob at learning languages makes this exact same mistake, okay? Now, I don't think I'm like an expert or anything on learning languages, but I have learned one other language to fluency. And when you do finally learn another language to fluency, you kind of look back and realize a whole heap of things along the way. And then, of course, I was also a tutor for many, many years for a vast array of people. So I do have a lot of input on these things. And you just happen to talk about something I'm experimenting with now. So let's begin.
Okay, so in this video, I'm sharing how I'm finally starting to learn a second language after trying and failing to learn one for basically my entire life. If you actually take a look at my channel, you'll notice how 2 years ago, I posted a video on how to learn any language easily with ChatGPT. Well, it's been 2 full years since I uploaded that video, and guess what? I still do not speak or understand Spanish, which is a language I've been trying to learn. Mainly because back then, I was using 3 study methods that frankly sucked. I was using...
Okay, so before we let her get into her study methods that frankly sucked, the 3 study methods, I guess my first question is, why did you make that video if you had not yet learnt another language? Okay, well, I've already asked that question. I guess my second question be then, why is that video still active on your channel? Okay, and I don't see any correction in the title, in the thumbnail, anything. Like, there's nothing here to imply that you no longer believe the content of this video. Now, I can easily answer this question, and everyone's going to hate me for saying this, but it's because it gets views. That video is one of your biggest performing videos on the channel. In fact, it may actually be your biggest. Yep, it is. It's your biggest performing video on the channel. It is the video that's bringing you views, it's bringing you subs. Therefore, you will not touch that video in any way. You do not want to touch its thumbnail, its title, anything, because it will probably die as soon as you do. I get that. But you've just acknowledged that this video is spreading basically a bad idea, bad information. Now, funnily enough, I watched a little bit of that video. I don't know why it's not showing here, but I watched a little bit of it, and I've watched a little bit of this video, and I don't think you've actually progressed in your understanding of how to learn a language. In fact, I feel like you've just gone from one extreme to another. But we'll let this video roll, and I'll show you why I believe that.
Using ChatGPT for conversation practice, I was using Spanish YouTube videos or YouTube Spanish lessons for grammar, and I was using flashcards to memorize vocabulary.
Okay, so do you see the problem? I see the problem. It's obvious as day what you did wrong. Okay, so you did grammar. You did watching videos about people talking about grammar, and you're doing flashcards there, and those flashcards literally just have one word on them. I don't see you talking. I don't see you listening for anything. Maybe you are. Maybe you've blocked out the audio. Maybe you didn't record yourself, like, actually outputting what's appearing on that flashcard, and it's individual words. Okay, do you see what the problem is here? You're missing a major component of, like, what I like to call the little triangle of love, okay? So you've got your study over here. which is like learning the theory of a language. But you're missing a major component called input, which is where you actually listen to the language now. You try to understand the language, and then you're missing another component called output, which is where you try to produce the language. So you're doing just one component of the triangle, which is why you fail. This would be the equivalent of someone trying to become a programmer, okay, watching videos about how a programming language works, doing flashcards on functions, you know, like literally the little things that you type in. And then, what was the last thing? I guess also reading about the theory of a programming language, but missing the major component of actually reading code that you can understand and figuring out what it means, and then writing your own code. Do you see how crazy that would sound? This would be the programmer equivalent of someone sitting here, staring at video after video, reading textbook after textbook about how to program a video game, and never sitting down and trying to program a video game. It's the same for language. Languages aren't special, guys. Okay? So, that was the problem. Let's see if you've rectified that problem.
I studied using those methods basically every day for like 6 months straight. And after all that time, I still could not understand or have a basic conversation in Spanish, which is just sad. And that eventually just killed my motivation and caused...
And it would be the same with programming. If I was reading textbooks about programming, watching some Indian guy explain quaternions on a friggin' whiteboard going, okay, a quaternion is it's a 4D object, but we project it into 3D space, and then we use the 3D space projection in order to form a rotation that does not suffer from gimbal lock. Like, I would fucking lose motivation over that, as opposed to me actually using it for what it's designed for, okay? Sorry to go down like a random programming route, but like, I see this problem across multiple fields where people think they can do something just because they know the theory.
Me to quit all those years ago. But then last November, I took my first trip to Mexico and absolutely fell in love with the country and the culture. And so I decided to start learning the language again. But
you know what? I can't help myself, guys. Here's a better goddamn example. Go read a book about how to exercise. Yeah? Watch some dude on YouTube showing you how to do freaking, pull-ups, push-ups, stuff like that. And then never actually trying. Imagine watching someone exercise every day. In fact, lots of people do this, but like watching them exercise every day and then never trying to actually do it yourself and wondering why you're still a fat slob sitting in front of like YouTube, watching some hooded guy who's balding on the internet.
This time, I knew I had to approach learning Spanish differently, and I had to stop studying in the traditional way that school taught me to do if I wanted to become fluent in Spanish once and for all. Which sort of just brings me to now. It's been about 30 days since I started learning again with a new method, and I've already made more progress in the past month than I did in 6 months using my previous study techniques. And all I have been doing is what I call the AntiStudy Method.
Okay, we've got a new name for it, guys. It's called the AntiStudy Method. Every time I watch one of these videos, there's a new name given to it.
So I'm not drilling grammar, I'm not memorizing vocabulary, I'm not doing any exercises, nothing like that. All I am doing are two things: playing video games in Spanish and watching tons and tons of YouTube videos in Spanish. Now,
okay, so now she's jumped from one extreme to the other. So in our triangle, she's cut out the study component, and now she's just doing listening. Guess what? I didn't hear anything about production of speech in there. So the funny thing is, if you just do theory, you can progress with time, okay? You can eventually just learn an entire language from grammar books if you really want, from grammar books and dictionaries. It's possible. It's highly inefficient. Wouldn't recommend it. You'll probably become demotivated and give up, which is what happened to her. Then there's another method. You could just listen to the language. But eventually, it's going to take a long time to get there. And if you never start actually trying to produce the language, that other part in the triangle, well, guess what? You'll probably become demotivated and give up eventually as well. So it's like, these 3 points, you could actually do any one of them by themselves. It's not the most efficient way. You combine two, it becomes more efficient, okay? Which is what Dreaming Spanish does. It eventually combines the two. You're meant to do listening, then with speaking, and it skips like that whole theory stage, okay? And it's the same with programming. You could skip the theory stage. You could start just sit down in front of a keyboard, start smashing out until you figure out what an if statement is, and then figure out, oh shit, if I had a semicolon, it now compiles. You can do that. You will learn. Is that a smart way of doing it? No, it'd just be better to go read a book, then try do it, okay? It's the same with a language. Go read about these structures, then try do it. But people jump from one of these extremes to another without just acknowledging the fact that if you did all three together, you would progress the fastest, realistically. Now, you can choose. I'm not saying don't go this method or that method or something like that. The problem is when you then turn around after doing 6 months of hard study, which is what she did, okay, or 2 years basically, and then jump straight to listening and then discredit all that study you've done, all that theoretical understanding of the language beforehand. Because what's happening now is you're watching these videos, you're absorbing the language, it's going into your brain and it's hooking into all that theory from the past and it's making sense, okay? Again, you can just learn from just a book if you wanted, or just from watching, or literally even just from output if you really wanted. Like, you could do that. Not efficient, but you can do it. But the thing that annoys me is when people credit the input for everything, when realistically, most people have a big background in theory. They just don't realize it, okay? That's what annoys me. This will lead into the last part of the video segment we'll watch together. If you want to watch our whole video, it will be in the pinned comment down below.
Now, with this being said, when I started learning Spanish again, I wasn't actually only planning on doing those two things. For the first couple weeks, I was actually going through a Spanish textbook, and I was studying Spanish vocab with flashcards.
Look what she's doing with flashcards. This is the worst way to do flashcards, okay? Because she's laying there. I'm assuming she's not speaking. Maybe she is speaking, but like, she's just going, yep, yep, yep. Basically, what you're doing is visually understanding the word. You're not listening to the word. You're not trying to produce the word. So all you're training at this very moment is your visual recognition of the written form of the word.
I thought that would be the most sustainable way to do it and most effective. But then I came across a YouTube channel called Dreaming Spanish, and
okay, now this leads me to the last part because I am doing a Dreaming Spanish challenge in which I just use the input followed eventually by the output method without any theory, which is in this case called ALG. And a lot of people credit Dreaming Spanish for more than it deserves, realistically. Now, I'm not saying Dreaming Spanish is a bad resource. In fact, I love Dreaming Spanish. It's an amazing complementary resource. But the problem is when people come into this, they're like, oh my God, I made so much amazing progress. Dreaming Spanish saved my Spanish learning journey. If it wasn't for Dreaming Spanish, I never would have learned Spanish. Maybe that's true, okay? But most of the time, I'm like, you made amazing progress? Okay, well, what did you manage to do? And they'll be like, oh, I got the intermediate in like fucking 2 weeks or a week, or I skipped the beginner videos. I just started with intermediate. It was just understandable already. And I'm making amazing progress, like boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, okay, interesting. You ever studied Spanish before? And they'll be like, oh, I did like maybe 4 years at school, some apps, you know, read some books and shit, but none of that worked. I never could understand or speak the language. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. You studied the theory of the language, but you never implemented the theory, okay? You never tried to implement it. So this is my gripe, okay? And overall, I would have no beef with her video if it wasn't for the fact that she's not pointing out that all that theoretical background is actually going to help her massively. And that's why she's feeling this progress right now. She should have been doing this whole input stuff at the very beginning. I just accidentally skipped forward, but that's okay. We're not going to watch any more of this video. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If you like this video, sub to the channel. I'll see you all in the next video. If you're not there, you will find me in the middle of the night grinding on your leg and you will regret it. You will regret it so hard. Or maybe you'll enjoy it and then we'll just become the best of buds. But in any case, we'll see what happens.